The Bipartite Approach, A New Look at Poverty Analysis by Higgins and Alexis Kriegh.
So what is poverty? The dictionary definition is the state of being extremely poor, but there is so much more. What do you think of as poverty? Here's the answers we got when we asked some students at Washington and Lee University.
Cool, so I think that poverty is not being able to provide for your own basic needs or those of your family.
Yeah, I think it's just like having a lack of resources.
So I guess poverty to me would be like a family or somebody who can't afford to buy basic needs and live, I guess, at a rate that is sustainable. So anything that's below that line of like getting basic goods to provide for yourself and your family would be what I consider poverty.
As you can see, the definition varies greatly, and rightly so. It's a hard concept to understand. When you think of poverty, what do you think of?
We believe the best way to measure poverty is by what we named the bipartite approach. This is a combination of the supplemental poverty measurement and capabilities measurements. We believe an important aspect to consider when trying to define poverty is capabilities. Capabilities are the freedoms or opportunities created by a combination of personal abilities in the political, social, and economic environment. Martha Nussbaum makes the point that when defining poverty, the capabilities of the family should be examined as well. Functionings are the actions a person actually completes. Capabilities are the real possibilities for an individual to achieve functions that are necessary for a fulfilled life. For example, two different people both walk to work, so they have the same functionings. However, person A could drive to work in their car, but decides to walk for the exercise. Person B does not own a car, so has no other option than to walk. Therefore, person A has more capabilities than person B. It is important to take capabilities into account, as they consider for qualities of life that sometimes are not shown in monetary values. The official poverty measurement, or the OPM, is how poverty rates in the United States are currently being measured. The OPM was established in the 1960s after determining that the average family was spending 1/3 of their annual income on food. With this information, the poverty threshold was set at 3 times the price of a thrifty food basket. It has 48 different family type scenarios and only counts gross annual pre-tax income. There are issues with this measurement, such as it does not account for supplemental nutrition assistance programs, or SNAPs, income tax credits, or other forms of supplementary income. There is only one nationwide standard of the OPM, so geographical location is not accounted for. This is a problem since a person experiencing poverty in New York City could have the same income as a family that is doing just fine in Wyoming. The supplemental poverty measurement was formed in 2009 to help fill in the gaps for what the OPM leaves out. The SPM looks at how much families spend on food, clothing, shelter, and utilities for the year, and the house that lies at the 33rd percentile becomes the baseline. The baseline measurement is then multiplied by 1.2 to account for extra necessary expendables, such as toiletries, books, and more. This becomes the poverty line for the SPM. The SPM gives a more accurate account of how families in the U.S. are actually doing, instead of just looking at their income. The SPM counts near cash and in-kind benefits as the family's money, and subtracts non-discretionary expenses, such as childcare, commuting costs, and medical out-of-pocket expenses. It also has different thresholds for different areas of the country and for different years, which gives a more accurate perception of poverty. There are some downsides to the SPM as well as the OPM, as both are binary measures that do not account for how close someone is to the poverty line. The assets of the families might be enough to afford their own FSCU, but they still could be below the median income, which could lead to the family feeling socially excluded or stigmatized.
We believe that the bipartite approach is the correct approach for measuring poverty. By using the SPM in conjunction with capabilities, we have a way of defining and measuring poverty. While we believe the bipartite approach is the correct approach, others have different ideas.
Some people believe that the OPM does not accurately show poverty, and therefore the average American does not know what life is like for the average poor American. Robert Rector depicts this view in his article, Air Conditioning, Cable TV, and an Xbox: What is Poverty in the United States Today? Rector shows that the majority of families in poverty are able to own an air conditioner, a car, cable TV, and a DVD player. Rector believes that in the long term, grossly exaggerating the extent and severity of material deprivation in the U.S. will benefit neither the poor, the economy, nor society as a whole. We believe that it is difficult to determine the state of a household's finances by simply looking at their material possessions. There is no way to tell how or when they acquired these items. Maybe a family was able to buy a TV before a member of the family lost their job. A car could be the only way for the head of a household to commute to their job to support the family. There could be endless possibilities of how a family acquires material possessions, and there's no threshold to determine if owning a certain item makes the family wealthy or not. Rector also states that the typical average poor American has more living space in his home than the average non-poor European has. The problem with this fact is that it does not compare American families in poverty to other Americans. Although some poor Americans might seem better off or have more material possessions than those in poverty in other countries, they still are well below the average American. This is where capabilities and social inclusion come into play. Although a family might be able to survive, if they still are well below the level of their peers and fellow citizens, they could feel stigmatized in the society. This shows that it is important to look at the whole picture to truly understand how poverty is affecting Americans today.
Income is a common target for looking at poverty because low income equals poverty, right? This is the common perception towards poverty, and income analysis is currently used to measure it this way. The New York Times cited a project led by Marcus Yonti showing that 42% of American men raised in the bottom fifth of incomes stay there as adults. This fact, while it may be statistically accurate, doesn't account for the difference between the bottom of this 42% and the top. The income approach has both good and bad aspects to it. It's very good at seeing the scope of poverty on a broad general scale. It's universal and it's easy to use. The bad aspects, though, is that it doesn't look at how people are actually doing. It places people in income brackets and doesn't look at the human element. Take two families, for example. Both earn the same amount of money, yet one family is receiving supplemental nutrition assistance program benefits and has a car. Logically, this family will be better off than the other family. But in the eyes of income analysis, they're the same. In conclusion, we believe the bipartite approach to analyzing poverty is the correct method. Capabilities are essential to defining poverty, and the SPM, while it's not perfect, is a better way to measure poverty than the OPM.
We are always open to new ideas, so whether you agree with us or not, comment below and tell us your thoughts.